was crazy, bro. Cause like I drank that fucking full thing, like almost a full thing of fucking Smirnoff, bro. Just like the fucking green apple shit, bro.
Yeah.
I was so drunk, bro. I was fucking. I felt like I was falling and somebody was shaking me at the same time, bro. That's how bad the spins were, bro. Kind of like how when you had to go to the fucking shower, I gotta take a cold shower real quick.
Falling and shaking at the same time, dude.
Oh,
That's like what we're supposed to do with babies.
yeah.
Okay? Number one.
Drop them and shake them while
Yeah.
you're dropping them.
I mean, the only good baby is like...
Drop and slam.
A
Or
shaken
shake and
one.
slam.
Yeah, a shaken one,
slam.
dude.
Shaken, not stirred, of course.
Shake and
Yeah.
slam, you know?
I like my baby shaken, not stirred, okay?
Just a little...
Jesus Christ. But we back.
Yeah.
This is going to be part 2 of the JFK podcast. If you
Finally.
don't... Yes, yeah, I know. Sorry to keep you guys waiting for so long. If you haven't seen that one, go back to the channel. Start off with the first one, just to give you some background knowledge to where we're in right now. But also going to be taking we're going to be doing a live kratom review. I got green Malaysian kratom. I'm going to take 4 or 5 grams. And we're going to...
Taking the whole bottle.
Bro, we're going to get deep into JFK. My boy Gage is a genius on this shit. He's really the guy. He's going to be the guide for this whole video because he really dove deep into this shit, as you saw in the last one. But yeah, bro, we're just going to do what we always do. We're just going to smoke, chow with the homies, and get deep into the truth of our world. All right? All right, so where do we leave off exactly, Gage, bro?
We left off talking about the doctors involved.
Okay. Yeah. Like the dude who was... I remember we looked up his name, and it... And that's the thing. We're not just... That's also what I love about Gage, bro. We're not just trying to fucking... We're not just spewing conspiracy theories. He's giving you the names, the documents, the names of the projects. So if you, as you're watching this, bro, look up the people he's talking about, and you can see the whole background. Like, we looked up...
I advise everyone to do their own research, definitely.
On God.
All the time, about anything, not just this.
Yeah, like, no matter what anybody, no matter what us or anyone tells you, research for yourself, number one. That's the most important thing, bro. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
So we were talking about the doctors. We went over a few. Looked them up, talked about them.
Yeah, say what was that last dude we
And these are like CIA, MK Ultra doctors, right?
Right. So these are all doctors that were contracted or hired or funded by the CIA to either research, conduct, or experiment with hypnosis, drugs, mind control, torture, anything that they were really doing at the time.
This is all documented fact.
Right.
This
isn't
just
stuff we know. This is stuff that they've admitted to. Stuff that they were punished for. Quote unquote.
Yeah, punished. Right. Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
And there were hundreds of doctors that did these experiments. And there's probably somewhere in the range of 100 that have come forward and talked about it, written books on it, publicly confessed to people. Some on their deathbeds have said, "Oh, I hypnotized this such and such person to do this," or whatever the case. We'll go over a few. We went over the few last video.
Yeah, who was that last, bro? What was that last name we left off on?
We went over a few. Dr. Cameron, Estabrooks, Dr. Wolf, and Dr. Orn was the last one.
Dr. Estabrooks, bro.
Dr. Martin Orn was a leading expert on hypnosis and a mind control contractor for the CIA.
Dude, and we got... Alright, so this is another one of the doctors.
Right, that
George...
was the first one we went over the last time.
Yeah, George Hoban Estabrooks was a Canadian-American psychologist and an authority on hypnosis during World War II. He used hypnosis... Oh my... Bro, okay. He used hypnosis to help spies have split personalities to not actually know they were spies in case of capture. He stated it was easy to create and easy to cure using hypnosis. He was also a 32nd degree Knight Templar stonemason.
Damn, I didn't know that one.
Holy shit, bro.
But we actually talked about that one with the conscious and the unconscious American with the communist. That was the split personality that we talked about. Someone we also mentioned last time was James Angleton, and that's who we're gonna dig into right now. If you want to look him
Well,
up.
see, I think about this. This is just like if you watch Naruto, how the one dude, how like Sasori could mind control people by putting a tag in their brain, but they
Right.
didn't even know they were spies,
Right.
bro.
Exactly.
And think about that. That's some crazy idea from an anime. Nah, we really did that.
That is true.
We really
That's
did
a
that,
real
bro.
idea.
And
Art imitates life, as
yeah,
they
for
say.
real, bro. What is his
James
name?
Angleton.
James Angleton. A spy.
James Jesus Angleton.
Yeah.
Yeah. James Jesus Angleton.
Was chief of counterintelligence for the CIA from 1954 to 1974. His official position within the organization was Associate Deputy Director of Operations for Counterintelligence. Blah, blah, blah. High ranking.
He went to Yale and then Harvard, and then in World War II he served in the Army and ended up in the OSS, the Operation of Strategic Services, as we said last time. Mentioned that. He joined the CIA in 1947 when it was founded. He performed psychological operations in Italy, um, such as fixing the elections there, using propaganda, rigging them
Yeah,
straight out.
that's documented as well.
Documented
Yeah.
operations of rigging.
Yeah. Not only counterintelligence, but like
Right,
enforcing
psychological
propaganda.
operations, counterintel.
But think about this: enforcing propaganda. He was working for the U.S.
Exactly.
Enforcing
The
propaganda
United
in other
States,
countries.
exactly. We were doing this stuff all throughout Europe.
Yeah, so we're influencing the
Right, post World War II.
dude. Holy shit,
Also.
bro! All over the world.
Which is another thing to consider. That is exactly why we were doing it. Post World War II, we're trying to shape the direction the country is going. Which you can look at that however you want. You know, whether you're
Baby boomers, bro. Fucked America.
whether you're fixing a country after a war or fixing a country
Yeah, fixing.
forever.
Yeah.
So he in the OSS he met Alan Dulles, which is someone I blanked on their name last time. He eventually became the director of the CIA prior to I believe Macron and Helms. I believe it was Alan Dulles, Macron, and then Helms. Both Alan Dulles and Macron were fired because of Helms' action, unknown to the people that fired them. But
What was Helm's action? What did he do?
essentially the MK Ultra stuff.
Oh, okay.
They fired Alan Dulles and Macron because of those operations, but they were all Helms's operations.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And they didn't know. So they promoted him for the stuff he was doing, but they fired the people that didn't know he was doing it.
Well, yeah, because he's so. I mean, think
because they didn't know he was doing it, but they got
Yeah.
fired for it because they were technically in charge.
They
and
were
he
like
was
the front men
promoted.
for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They were the patsies.
Bro, plans within plans within plans,
Exactly.
bro. Governments within governments.
And that's
bro.
how far this thing goes. So
And if you're new, MK Ultra is mind
Right,
control,
right.
basically.
Literally.
Literally.
right.
Factual,
watch the
documented.
previous video, of course.
Yeah, like we said, watch episode 1 to get caught up.
So he became a close friend with Alan Dulles and Helms. Very close friend with Helms, of course. So in 1949, he was appointed the head of CIA's Office of Special Operations. In 1951, he was assigned the Israeli desk. 1954, Chief of Counterintelligence. Operated with unaudited funding source.
Unaudited funding source. What does that mean? Like no one's doing checks on what they're spending it on?
Right.
Like the type shit, like how
So-
right now.
Nobody's going over it.
Right. So essentially,
Unaudited.
it was somewhat of a blank check. They got the money and then they essentially said, just labeled it as counterintel.
Right.
That was all it
Yeah,
was.
just blanket statement for all this funding.
Exactly.
Well, like they do right now, even like how just this year again, the Pentagon has $2 trillion in untraced funds. So essentially, obviously, we know that they're using it for something, which
Right.
is the things they can't expose to the public that they're hiding from the public. But on paper,
Which could be exactly one of these kind of operations, this MK Ultra unaudited.
Yeah.
And money's gone missing
undisclosed.
from the Pentagon multiple times in the past.
Well, exactly. So
Exactly.
think it's still going on. This stuff was all the way back then. They're having these unaudited black funds. Even today, think about the Pentagon itself can't account for $2 trillion. It's like we just don't know where it went. We don't know where it went. Like, what are you talking about, bro?
They
And
know
that's all.
exactly
That's our
where it
tax
went.
dollars. That's what we're paying taxes for, to not know where it goes.
Well, because
Right.
nothing's government funded; it's all taxpayer funded.
Yeah, the government is funded by us.
Literally.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, so Angleton allegedly told people that he believed JFK to be a KGB mole, as in
Okay.
he was an undercover agent
Right.
for the Russians, the president of
Holy
the United
shit!
Yeah.
States.
JFK.
And who said that?
Yeah, James Angleton.
Okay.
Okay.
And he was
Um,
chief director of the CIA.
No, the chief of counter intel.
The chief of counterintelligence of the CIA
Yes,
said,
exactly.
"See,
And he's also quoted as saying, I should probably find the quote, but I'll paraphrase. If you control the intel, you control the
people.
world.
Yeah.
Essentially, because you control how people react.
Yeah. Well, it's like what's
Right.
going on in North Korea, bro.
Or what information you give out too, because you
Exactly.
can control
Yeah.
what
You know?
pieces you want to give out to the media.
Yeah.
And he was known for his unbending Cold War views.
But I'm just like, bro, it's not. This isn't some quack. This isn't some reporter off the streets.
No.
This is the director of counterintelligence saying that our
JFK.
president, that JFK,
Our president is a KGB mole.
holy shit, dude.
Right, that is interesting.
Right.
In 1967, Operation Chaos was operated by
Operated.
by James Angleton. It was used to determine if foreign governments planned anti-war civil rights protests.
Oh yeah, it says the whole mission was to uncover possible foreign influence on domestic race, anti-war, and other protests. The operation was launched under the director of the CIA, as he said, Richard Helms, and the MH designation is to signify the program as a worldwide area of operation. So not only are they trying to uncover foreign influences in America, but all over the
but
world,
everywhere.
even though we just said that they're also the ones influencing it.
Exactly.
Holy shit, dude.
Well, exactly. So that's part of their excuse for doing the infiltrating is we're counter infiltrating.
Right.
So they're rigging elections
Yeah.
under the guise of fixing.
Yeah, they're like,
their
no, we're the
rigged
global police. We're trying to
Yeah,
keep
exactly.
everyone. It's like, no, it's like it's.
we're not rigging election. We're fixing their rigged election.
Yeah, dude.
So, under that operation, they monitored activists, radicals, pretty much everyone you can think
Yeah,
of,
just
actually.
like anarchists, people of interest.
Journalists,
Right.
Newspaper outlets, everyone.
All the people you imagine the NSA has tabs on
They
right now.
infiltrated these groups. They had 600 names on a CIA watch list, included members of Congress.
Did we ever get that list? That ever come out, or we just know of its existence?
I'm not sure. That
Yeah.
could be something.
I
to
just love the
research.
fact. I mean, just even
Right.
just-
These were people that are spying on.
right,
Doing
the
all
people
this.
that are supposed to represent.
And of course, in this operation, it included illegal bugging and breaking in and doing all that
Yeah.
stuff. Of course, you could think, which of course nowadays is just normal routine operation.
Yeah, they're the only one. The government is the only one not held accountable by their own laws, bro. Everything has to be held by law unless they're doing it.
Right.
Well, we can do illegal things.
Watergate happened in 1972.
Okay. What is do you know like what is Watergate? Because I have
So-
no idea what that.
So Watergate is kind of an interesting series of events. It's a story of a break-in at the Democrat National Committee headquarters. a security guard was doing his rounds. He found a door that I believe was either taped open or left open, whatever the case. He opened the door. He found the people inside, ski mask, digging through files,
Yeah.
the whole blown
What building
thing.
is this at? What is this, like, federal document building or something?
No, it's the Democratic National Committee,
Oh,
which
okay,
is
okay.
just the party headquarters.
Right.
So these were people breaking into a political building, obviously for political purposes, to
Right.
get political files. So there was a whole investigation. The people involved were later found to be mostly CIA operatives.
The people that broke in.
The people that
Okay,
broke in.
all right.
And it ended up being this whole big mess because the break-in isn't really what ended up being the big mess. What ended up happening is that so many people got involved trying to cover it up and say it wasn't what it was, that it brought down Nixon.
Okay.
Because he tried to cover it up and say he wasn't even involved in the planning of it. This was just CIA.
Well, that's what he says.
I kind of believe him.
Well, because why would he defend? Why would he?
I think this was the CIA going rogue and doing what they thought to be good on his behalf.
Okay.
I think they were definitely doing it for him.
He was Democratic or Republican?
Republican.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So this was the Republicans, and at the time they were definitely using the IRS, the CIA, and the FBI against the Democrats.
Right.
Which is, funnily enough, what we see now.
Yeah.
The Democrats using against the Republicans. But it's unknown if that was part of Operation Chaos. So they attempted to steal files and bug the offices in the
yeah, just keep
center.
track of all the Democratic official representatives.
And they got caught. Ended up being a whole big investigation.
Well, so do you know, like, because he found these dudes in ski masks,
right,
going through, right?
Right.
But if they're like CIA operatives, like, so did he arrest them, or like how? Okay, damn. Like he pulled out the gun on him and he was.
I guess so.
Damn. Okay, dude.
Of course, do some research on
these
that.
These CIA operatives got caught by a basic security guard, dude.
Right. Well, I don't know if CIA operative is the right word, but a CIA contractor. Okay. There were people that were
working for the CIA. Okay.
Hired by the CIA with less strings attached.
Yeah.
For liability reasons.
Yeah. Another patsy.
Another patsy, of course. And they, of course, ratted on them immediately.
Okay.
Unlike,
right. They ratted on the.
Well, exactly. So
dude.
They were like,
well, this is crazy. Imagine you're the police, right?
Right.
And then you just get these. You're like, oh, we had a break in, and then they're
because they're not going to be like, oh, I just broke into the Democratic Center because I wanted to know who was fucking
right.
What kind of pie they liked for dinner.
Right.
Like
what they were going in because they were hired for some reason, and they're gonna know that, so you're gonna have to tell them something.
Well, exactly, and you're just the cop, and they're sitting there like, yeah, we got hired by the CIA, and you're at the origins of this entire scandal.
Well, you don't even have to say CIA. You just say this guy, and then this guy tells on this guy, and this guy.
True.
And that's what ended up
Especially
happening.
if they're low levels,
exactly.
They're not too attached.
They don't know.
So
they just say, oh, this guy
hired
that
way,
and then that guy ends up being linked.
Yeah,
and
they didn't even realize it was such a deep thing. They're like, we just got hired for a job, bro.
And that's exactly what happened. So that's why I think Nixon didn't even know. And then he was clued in afterwards, tried to cover it up.
Yeah.
And then he ended up being investigated.
I'm saying, as soon as you
lied to Congress about it.
Yeah.
And then that's what brought him down.
As soon as you start to cover it up, you automatically we know you did something.
Exactly. So in 1974, which 2 years after Watergate, how many years after Operation Chaos?
I was saying, what year are we at right now?
This is 1974. This is after the JFK assassination.
Okay,
We're
and
what
year did
background on James Angleton?
What year did we start on?
We started back in 1944.
Yeah, so we're already we've gone through 30 years so far of this history, bro.
So in 1974 there was a leak of Operation Chaos. James Angleton denied the operation when questioned. He ended up being fired by the Director of Central Intelligence, Colby, who I believe was hired after Helms was fired. Angleton was later criticized for being secretive and self-contained and a total lack of cooperation. Majority of MK Ultra records destroyed by Helms before he left. So Helms and Angleton, right before they both left, they destroyed all the records on MK Ultra.
So this is just the
Right.
scraps.
So essentially,
Yeah.
just barely what
yeah.
we know. Right.
This happens quite a bit.
Yeah.
And most of what we know is
Yeah.
by the
That they just
people who have
burn
come forward.
documents.
Most of what we know is by the people who have come forward and said, "Oh, I was part of this operation. I got paid. I didn't realize it, but all this stuff."
Okay, yeah. Connecting the little dots from each person.
So in 1975, there was the Church Committee, which was this huge, big committee. I definitely advise researching that. It's very interesting. Very.
Church committee.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll post some shit.
So James Angleton told the Church Committee liaison Walter Elder the committee was a Soviet plot and an unwitting instrument, saying that they were KGB spies, essentially. It's saying that the committee didn't know it, but they were planned by the Russians to infiltrate the CIA.
Damn.
So their orders were being from the KGB.
Exactly.
And they didn't know.
Exactly.
Damn.
Well, that's what they call it. It's like
and
on a need-to-know basis.
That's kind of what he means by you control the intel, you control the world. Because he just tells these people, oh, they're being controlled by the Russians. And they say, oh, fuck, they might be. They might be controlled by the Russians. Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do
but
now.
It's like you make sure that nothing can ever come back to you. But
also, it's my job to investigate him, so he might just be saying that, but he would know if they are, so...
You think we're seeing that again?
Dude, it's just plots within plots, bro. Like,
with the Democratic Party now?
Exactly. No, that's exactly what we're saying. The CIA... exactly what was in Watergate, the FBI, IRS, CIA being used against the Democrats, they flipped that around, got control. Now everything is being used against the Republicans the exact same way.
Okay, so here's what we got. The Church Committee, formerly the United States Senate Select Committee to study governmental operations with respect to intelligence activities, chaired by Idaho Senator Frank Church, the Church Committee. But think about this is just what I found interesting. The committee was part of a series of investigations into intelligence abuses, including by the Pike Committee and the Rockefeller Commission.
I highly recommend investigating all of this because in 1975 was known as the what was it? The
Year of Intelligence.
Year of Intelligence.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a good year for intelligence, but it was actually pretty much the downfall of intelligence because there were mass investigations into pretty much every sector of the government that found that everyone was doing illegal shit.
Yeah.
And
it's like all the Spider-Mans pointing at each other, bro.
Exactly.
It's like a web, yeah.
Yeah, literally, dude.
And nowadays, they do that shit and they just investigate themselves. And they're like, no.
They don't even realize they're investigating them because then it loops back and they're like, wait. They're like, we did that.
Well, you know what's funny? I was wondering the other day why there hasn't been an investigation. There's all this talk about the FBI working with Twitter and, that should be
and it's coming out with Elon Musk releasing the actual...
Right, there should be a massive government investigation of that. But there's no, congressional investigation because the person that chairs the fucking Committee on Intelligence is fucking Adam Schiff.
Okay.
One of the fucking people that was in the fucking spy ring on Trump using the fucking Intelligence Committee against the Republicans. So he's not gonna fucking expose the Intelligence Committee.
Well, it's because it's like at this point they're all corrupt.
Exactly. If they expose any one of each other, they're all exposed.
Yeah, they're everything. It's like mutually assured destruction. Exactly. If we start an investigation on them, we're all gonna start investigating each other. We're gonna end up in the same exact. Which even at this point, they definitely couldn't do that because back then we didn't have as much. The public didn't have as much information. No. But now, if we were to see that go down, and the world's starting to wake up and realize just how corrupt the government is. It's like if that shit were to go down today, bro.
Well, it's kind of crazy because we're both waking up and almost like being like normalized by it, being like, oh well, of course the government's corrupt.
Yeah.
And it's like, the fuck do you mean?
They're trying to normalize
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
And it's like we shouldn't be so normalized to the corruption. We should be like, the fuck. Fuck this corruption.
Because it's so in people's faces right now that they're trying to do that. That's why people are waking up.
I've been seeing this quote a lot. The fucking. I'm not gonna be able to quote it directly because it's a fucking riddle in itself.
Yeah.
But it's they know you're lying, and they know they know they're lying. That whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like we know what the government is doing, and the government knows we know what they're doing, but they're still lying to us and
Yeah.
saying they're not.
Right.
It's like the whole FBI and the CIA, with the whole records coming out recently. That's another thing we should bring
Yeah,
up.
50,000 documents on JFK were just released from the CIA and FBI.
Like how long ago?
Just
I think
like a week
2
ago, bro.
weeks,
Like,
maybe
Yeah.
a
2
week
weeks
and a
ago.
half.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this
We
shit
didn't
just
have this
came
for
out.
the last podcast.
Right.
Yeah.
And how
they-
perfect that
most
that
of
just
them-
came out as we're
right,
talking
and,
about
and
this.
they're very interesting too. Most of them are on Lee Harvey Oswald, revealing that the CIA was tracking him for a long time, much longer than you would think. For someone they say they had no idea about.
Right. Talking about, oh yeah, no, we have no connections with him. We didn't realize he was gonna do this until it happened. He was never on a watch list. And then you find out, well, why have you been watching him this whole time? What was he doing? And it just proves, so that's another thing they lied about.
Just goes into the fact that he was a CIA agent and was being hired by the CIA agent to be a undercover.
When this connects back to the MK
double
Ultra
agent,
shit, bro.
Exactly. More
What
of
if
a double agent.
Yeah, like what if he was an MK, like the MK Ultra shit, bro? Who knows?
Well, exactly. He thought he was being trained to be a double agent, to be, a spy in Russia. Because, he defected to Russia, was being a communist, doing all this stuff, saying, oh, I can give you U2 secrets. Which a common tactic by the CIA was to do just that, was to send fake spies there with these secrets, give them these actual blueprints, but these blueprints...
Misinformation, bro.
But beyond misinformation, they'd be total, blueprints to make a
saying,
working
like,
thing.
they're
but
giving
they'd
lies.
Start it and it'd blow the fuck up.
Right. Like like the intelligence, because they're thinking like if it's the KGB, they're like, oh, this guy's about to bring us some super secret,
well,
blah blah.
It happens so often that when Lee Harvey Oswald did it, the fucking Russians they didn't trust him.
Yeah.
They said, you're a fucking spy. We're not going to trust this information.
Well, that's what's...
Because he had actual documents on the
yeah.
U2.
Well, like, you never know what to trust. It's like it's all... Like it.
That's why he spent so short of time and went back to the U.S. And when he went back to the U.S., CIA didn't fucking need him anymore. So they said, okay, what else can we use him for?
Right.
Oh, a patsy. Oh, he's a defector that came back.
Right.
Oh, everything's lining up just right.
Perfect background story.
Perfect timing for this other operation that just sprung up.
Well, how many other people do you think besides Lee Harvey Oswald that they're tracking, trying to do the same thing that they could have used and thrown on the bus
This thing is just the culmination of the perfect timing, and we're going to dig into every bit and piece of this. So, in 1987, James Angleton died on May 11th of lung cancer. Probably karma, because I believe lung cancer is one of the more painful way to go.
Yeah, fuck that guy. Holy shit, bro. We're just dropping L's on his grave, dog.
Smoking that CIA pack.
Yeah, what's his name, bro? What's his name?
Angleton.
Rolling up that Angleton pack, son.
Oh.
What's up, dog? We on that shit.
Yeah, so,
Holy
we're
shit.
gonna backtrack a little. Going back to the 1960s, this is a few years before the assassination, they accelerated operations in MK Ultra. Experiments involving hypnosis. They started to ramp it up and experiment more, branch out in different topics, more drugs.
And it's been going this whole time.
Right.
They started it 30 years ago, or if we're in the 1960s, 20 years ago. But that means where we started off 20 years ago, when at the basics, we were already, as we told you in episode 1, talking about using drugs and hypnotizing children and like using all these things. They've been doing this now for 20 years, so how far have they progressed up to this point,
Well, I believe at this point it's now 10 or 15 years, somewhere right there.
But yeah, still though.
Still a pretty good period. They ended up finding breakthroughs in clandestine technology. They figured out ways to order a subject to perform an action and not recall it later. So that has been one of their main goals this entire time. Was to get someone to do something and have no memory of it, or being told to do it.
Like a sleeper agent.
Yeah,
Exactly,
it's like some Agent Smith shit, bro.
No, that's like Black Ops 1 Mason shit.
So,
Yeah.
so with
The
that,
numbers.
they figured out that a subject could be controlled, and told to pull a weapon on cue and fire, right? So they could get them to be the sleeper agent,
Right.
right? The person you think of, and they could get them to be there to do the assassination. But they found that their aim would be unpredictable.
Okay.
So if they went to do the assassination, they would essentially be incapable.
Right.
You know, there'd be no way for them to do it.
Yeah,
so
like we can get him to perform an action,
we
but
could get him to be there,
right.
but instead, we're gonna have somebody else do the shooting.
Okay.
Right, you
okay.
have like 3 other snipers lined up around it, so
Which is
you get the one guy
exactly-
who's like this, and you get
Which
the
is
one
exactly how they
So you
end
make
up
it look
doing
like it was that guy
They
when
have
it really
multiple
wasn't.
sharpshooters,
Okay.
and they have a patsy. They have a
Okay.
guy that goes down for it. They have an obvious, crazy, whatever case they
Well,
want.
look, he was standing in the middle of the street with a gun. What else could he? It was obviously him, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was firing at him. What do you mean he had a knife in his back?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you mean he was dead?
What do you mean his head was chopped off? He was shooting a gun at him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in 1961, a very big event happened that would essentially start this domino. That culminated, well, I would say culminated in the assassination, but then continued into multiple wars and where we are today.
Right.
So in 1961, there was the Cuban invasion, the Bay of Pigs invasion. Feel free to do your research. Happened in April of 1961.
Explain what that was.
This was
That was with the Cuban Missile Crisis and shit. Like it's before that.
I believe it was just before.
It's when it's like it's basically like didn't we arm a bunch of
Look up the Cuban Missile
Yeah, I
Crisis.
think we armed a bunch of Cuban Cuban
So
guerrilla
the
warfare
Cuban-
dudes.
The Bay of Pigs invasion was a CIA-funded operation, where they funded and trained anti-Castro Cubans to invade, Cuba.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like
From
with Osama
Florida.
bin Laden, bro. We
Exactly.
trained these people,
Right.
weaponized
Some of them
them.
were CIA operations, but most of them are operatives.
What was it, Operation Longwood or whatever?
I can't remember the name, but
Yeah. But all right, yeah. Bay of Pigs started.
Where they
Right.
they proved that they had it set up where they do that.
right. So, they did this, and they started the invasion, and it didn't go so well. So JFK didn't allow air support. And the CIA had planned for a land and air invasion, which essentially made the plan a total failure. And this led many in the CIA to blame JFK for said failure. And JFK, in turn, of course, blamed the CIA for bad intelligence, saying they could do it, yada, yada, yada. Made a bad relationship between the two, especially the specific people involved in the CIA.
Right. So this is where the schism between JFK and the CIA started. Was after the Bay of Pigs.
Especially because a lot of people in the CIA were fired after
Okay.
this. There's a lot of shifting around, and of course, when you're fired in the CIA, you're not really fired. You're sent to another department,
Yeah.
or sent to another agency, or doing whatever.
Yeah,
you
because
know?
once you're already in that world, they
Once
can't
you're
let you out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Once you're in intelligence, you're always in intelligence.
Yeah.
So that invasion failed. They planned to poison Castro.
Did they ever attempt it? Like.
I don't believe they were ever able to get close enough to attempt it.
Bunny, shut up.
And it was directly a Helms and Angleton plan, and they had planned to use mafia support.
Who did? The CIA?
Yeah,
They were getting involved with the mafia to try to.
The CIA had planned to hire Top Lieutenant William Harvey. Top Lieutenant William Harvey of the CIA was to hire mobster John Roselli to poison Castro.
Damn, bro, what the fuck?
Notorious hitman John Roselli.
Yeah, we got the CIA hiring mob hitmen
They can't do it themselves, bro.
to go poison the motherfucking leader of Cuba, bro. Holy shit.
In 1963, um, Angleton was publicly opposed to the JFK and RFK um, diplomacy.
What is
Their
RFK?
um, his brother.
Oh, okay, okay. Richard or whatever.
I think it was Robert Kennedy.
Yeah, oh yeah, you're right. You're
Right.
right.
And we'll get into him too. He was also um, murdered by the CIA.
Damn.
But so he was publicly opposed to their diplomacy and their peace and their way of doing things. Um,
Well, because this is like the hippie era where they held all the people like against the war and shit, and then they called them like hawks and doves, right? They're like, if you were a hawk, you're like a support of the war, and you're like, oh, I'm a full blood American, and they had the doves, which they called like the hippies. They're like, oh, they're basically calling them pussies, is what they were saying, bro.
Snowflakes.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, you fucking pussies. You don't want to just go around and murder people, bro. Like, you guys are lame, dude. Like, holy shit, bro. I don't know. I fuck with the hippies, bro.
right. So Angleton's official role during most of this period, the 1960s, pretty much 1960s, really, was his official role was to find spies in the CIA, to find moles. But that's kind of thought to be a cover,
Okay.
right? So what he was actually doing is this MK Ultra operation.
Right.
He's finding people to do these operations on, to experiment. So instead of finding moles, because he never found a single mole in the CIA during this time.
Okay.
Right? His entire career, he never found a mole.
Right. So let's say that is what he was really doing. He did a terrible job.
Right. Either he did a terrible job, or he was finding people
or
to
it's
do
just the
these
cover,
experiments
right.
on and to hypnotize.
Yeah. Well, think about and what do you like in the profile of someone who they would prefer? They're like, oh, this guy's a perfect candidate for MK Ultra. Like, what would that even be? Like schizophrenics or like people with mental issues that are already easily manipulated, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
We do get into that.
okay, word.
So involving the JFK conspiracy, 100 individuals who knew some aspect of the conspiracy died within 20 years. Around 66 died in violent gun deaths.
Like 2/3 of them
Right.
murdered.
God
Right.
damn.
Yeah,
Murdered,
2/3 of them
blasted.
straight up. Yeah.
Many of them just witnesses. Some of them just women. Women that were on the street and had seen something, and then were like, "Yeah, I saw this guy, and he like shot somebody." They were just blasted on the street, dead.
Damn, bro.
Yeah. In the Warren Commission, which is another good commission to research, there's a commission on the JFK assassination to.
Okay. Like they were investigating it.
They were It was the official government investigation.
Okay.
Essentially. And Angleton asked and was given by Helms the job of liaison to the Warren Commission. And the liaison is effectively the guy that goes and gets the information from every agency.
Giving him access to all of the intelligence. So
he's the guy that also returns the information to the Warren Commission.
Okay.
So he controls.
Well, true. Yeah, he controls what they hear. Yeah.
So that's exactly what he wanted to. So my own opinion is that what he did is he told them that if they revealed the truth, because he was never going to be able to just cover it up from them.
Right.
He had to present some kind of evidence. So I think he revealed evidence that showed Lee Harvey Oswald being connected to the Russians or somebody.
Okay.
And he said, if you reveal this, you're going to start World War III. We're already in the Cold War. So if you reveal this, we're going to war.
When it's all chess pieces.
And he's exactly.
Because he's like, I can just tell him whatever.
Right. And they say, oh, fuck, we don't want to start World War III over this. And,
so let's keep it covered up.
And yeah, exactly. So they cover it up, and then, maybe later they realize and they say, oh, fuck, but now I helped in the cover up, so I can't come forward, this and that. So I believe he essentially just lied to him.
Another thing, unwillingly being part of this higher plot.
Unwillingly part of the cover-up. I believe the Warren Commission was just lied to, given false evidence, lacking evidence. There's lots of evidence, especially these recent documents. A lot of stuff came forward that they did not give to the Warren Commission. And they should have. yeah, much of the information that he gave was later found to be false.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise.
Yeah.
So Yuri Nosenko was a Russian KGB agent. He defected to the U.S. in February of 1964. This is after the JFK assassination.
Okay. What year was the assassination?
1962? I
It was
believe
three.
was it the end of 1962 or the beginning?
It was
or-
1963.
was
I
it?
think. It was
Okay.
like
Alright.
spring.
Yeah, we'll just
like
go with.
JFK, right?
Yeah, let's just make sure exactly when
Just look up the date. Just be safe. We might as well. It's a JFK podcast.
When was
It's
JFK?
1962 or 3, for sure.
Yeah, November 22nd, 1963. So this is a
Okay,
year
November
after.
63. Right.
Okay, so this is
A
a year
year
after the
after.
assassination.
February of 64. So not even a full year. This is
Like 6 months, yeah.
So he was part of the USSR's SCD, the essentially the like FBI equivalent,
Okay.
the internal of the KGB to investigate the people in the KGB.
So like their intelligence or
Their internal intelligence.
Okay, yeah.
So he personally monitored foreigners, and he personally reviewed Oswald before and after the assassination.
When he was in Russia, he reviewed him?
When he was an agent.
Okay,
Right.
okay, yeah.
So before he defected, he was assigned as his job to review Oswald before and after. And he said he was certain the KGB had no involvement with Oswald. Angleton then denied this. The Warren report contained no reference to him.
Well, so he said that he had no connection to Russia or the
Right.
KGB at all.
Right.
And but those other didn't the dudes in Russia when he defected over there, they were like, "No, you're a spy." Like, so is this like two different, like, so even within their own
Right. No.
thing,
So,
there's like conflicting opinions.
well,
like-
exactly. So the Soviet Union was kind of in a scramble after the assassination to investigate it to make sure they didn't do anything because they had the
Okay.
same problem that we had in the CIA.
Right.
They were so compartmentalized.
They're like, we might have done it. We don't
Right.
know. Like,
We
right.
did an investigation.
It
We
might have
don't-
been us.
Right. We don't
Let's
think we
see.
did, but
Yo.
right. So they had to make sure, and they were like, "Look, we were pretty sure we didn't do this." And,
Right.
And they were like, and they came to the U.S. and they said, "We didn't do this," and the CIA was just, "We know."
Okay.
We know you
Damn.
didn't.
Yeah. Damn, yo. Okay.
Yeah. So
Like, now you
Angleton-
good. We know
right.
what happened.
Yeah, yeah, we know.
He did
Angleton
it.
denied. Yeah, Angleton denied this guy, and the Warren report contained no reference to this guy. And in 1968, 1969, and 1976, he was confirmed a bona fide defector by multiple people, and multiple statements and everything.
This Kiryuzi guy. Yuri.
Yuri Nosenko.
Yeah. My bad.
In 1978, Director Turner said Nosenko's statements were true. Angleton nearly killed Nosenko with torture at Camp Perry.
Holy shit.
Fuck.
Yeah, when did that go down, bro?
I don't have a year for
Like,
that.
they captured him after he defected and almost
I
tortured
imagine
him to death?
sometime when he was trying to, find the truth.
Yeah, true. Like, are you getting too close, Bubba?
Yeah. It's like, when the fuck are you gonna get amnesia,
Yeah.
bro?
Tortured him
Holy shit.
almost to death.
Yeah.
Dude.
Mary Pinochet Meyer. She had an affair with Kennedy.
Okay. Another one.
Another one.
Yeah.
Another one.
My boy
Yeah.
Kennedy's a
DJ
She was
baller,
a
Khaled.
fucking
dog.
player,
Another
bro.
one.
Bro, the youngest president ever. I
Mhm.
think one of them. Definitely in
I
that
think he
modern
was.
era.
Yeah.
And he was a fucking good looking one.
Oh, he's,
Crazy
I mean, good looking
amazing
for a
puss.
president.
Well, like,
Right.
you fucked Marilyn Monroe. We all know that.
Exactly, bro.
I mean, like, I gotta fuck the president.
Well,
You know,
I
it's all
mean, like,
these-
exactly,
look at-
bro.
look
You
at
don't need
fucking-
much pull if you're the
yeah,
president.
it's all that bragging rights
Clinton,
right there.
bro. Fucking Monica Lewinsky, bro.
Exactly.
They all got their side pieces.
So Angleton had tapped his phones, right?
Yuri's?
No. Kennedy's.
Okay, yeah.
He wanted to know.
While he was in office?
Yes.
The CIA tapped the president's phone while he was still in office.
Angleton, specifically.
Okay, dude.
He wanted to know what he was telling Mary because he was having an affair with her. He wanted to make sure he wasn't telling her any secrets.
Right.
Because, of course, if he told her any secrets, she'd have to die.
Right.
That's how they operated. And she did end up dying, of course.
Do we know?
I think so. I have here possibly had her killed as she was planning to go public with her views of the assassination. I do not have what she died of. But,
probably just another one of those. They're like, oh yeah, it was just a random gunman in the streets.
In 1965, Joe Shimon.
We'll go with Shimon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A CIA mob liaison. He told his daughter, I believe, on his deathbed, she was eliminated because she knew too much.
He was the CIA mob liaison.
He was a CIA mob liaison.
Like in between the CIA and the mob.
He was a mobster that essentially just reported to the CIA.
Damn.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah. They had tons of people like that. Essentially, every city that had a mob, they had at least one guy that reported to the CIA.
Right. Well, was he a mole in the mob, or did
Sometimes,
the mob people knew?
They had different
relationships.
Exactly.
Okay.
You know, so some mobs were particularly in touch with them. Some they were spying on.
Right. Some were willing to cooperate.
Exactly.
Okay.
Some were willingly
getting
saying,
something out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Saying, if you help us trade with Cuba. And
give
that's
you
how the
some
Cuba.
weapons,
That's exactly how the Cuba thing came around. 'Cause
Okay.
the mob was pissed at Cuba because when Castro came, they kicked the mob out. Essentially, because the mob was controlling Cuba, but they got kicked out when the communists took over, and the state took over all the businesses, and now there's no business.
They got a bone to pick with Castro because he just. I mean, imagine how many millions they're making off an entire country.
So the mob was working with the CIA to plan to kill Castro.
Damn.
Right.
Okay.
That's why they had that other dude.
That's why they had the whole plan to kill
poison.
him. So they had tons. So
they
they had tons of mob relationships. Right. Exactly. So this guy was a mob liaison. Don't know which mob. But he told his daughter that she was eliminated because she knew too much.
His own daughter?
Yes.
He told his own daughter.
Yes.
Damn. Okay.
Right. So 1964 to 1970, Angleton was doing his intensive mole hunt, as I said. Said to be a cover-up.
Right. Which we assume is the cover-up for MK Ultra.
Right.
Yeah.
He was said to be investigating CIA staff for moles. 0 moles found. Numerous agents involved in assassinations died at this time, though. So the people who were planning the assassinations around the world, like not just this one, but
right. But another thing where it's like after they've completed all their tasks, they're like, all right, let's clean up all the witnesses.
Close the loop.
Yep.
In 1966, Angleton infiltrates the Ramparts Berkeley magazine. They were running anti-war articles. Angleton called it a Soviet plot, and 0 links were found.
Oh, so we got some CIA involved in media propaganda,
right?
Trying to discredit. And because they'd be like, "Oh yeah, no, we got this conspiracy theorist guy
they're
on
Soviets, yeah, they're
right,
yeah.
But it's really him, bro.
It's him, exactly. Yeah. In Iran, they did some assassinations. 1953, they did a coup.
In what, Iran?
Yeah, in Iran. Yeah, that's just some background.
Right. Well, do you know like we performed a coup?
Well, okay, so we helped. It's like the classic thing. We helped and funded the. So basically, Mossadegh took over after the Shah of Iran fled because there were massive protests.
Well, just another thing, like how first we had the Bay of Pigs we talked about, where we're training and funding these.
Right. So there was a lot of turmoil going all over the world, and as the decades passed, we learned that most of it was caused by the CIA.
Right. What I say, because also then we have the one with Iran where we funded and trained Osama bin Laden.
Right.
You know, was that during this time, or is that's farther in the
That's
future?
later, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
When were they like? Because I know the CIA can't operate on U.S. soil anymore. When was that?
I believe
What?
that was after the Year of Intelligence.
After the year of
I
intelligence.
believe after that all came out that they were doing that stuff, they explicitly said no.
CIA isn't allowed to work on American soil.
No.
So that's why they created the NSA then. Or,
Well, no,
like, what do you?
they're
Yeah.
not allowed to have domestic operations. They still operate.
Yeah, I'm saying, what does that even
on
mean?
American
Because
soil.
yeah,
Right.
They
obviously
can't
they
have.
operate.
They can't
right?
have. They can't have American-based operations. If they are spying on someone in Iran and they trace somebody else to America,
Okay,
and
but just another bullshit.
exactly.
Like, they're not really. It's just to appease
But
the
haven't
public
they
or
proved
whatever.
that they've been spying on the people?
Everyone's
Well,
spying on
duh,
them.
yeah, that's what I'm
fucking
saying.
Edward
Like,
Snowden shit, bro.
well, that's because
Literally.
then it gets into NSA is after CIA, and that's with Edward Snowden in the
Yeah.
NSA, bro. He just recently got his like a year ago, I think, or a couple months ago, he just got his official citizenship in Russia.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
That's cool.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
he's
that's good
he's been
for
hiding
him.
out in Russia, but
Yeah.
now he's officially a protected citizen.
That's good for him.
It's crazy how many people don't know about Edwards. He's alive right now. He exposed this shit within our
I
lifetime,
know.
and people, it's like you don't like.
They even have a fucking movie about him, and people don't know about him.
Yeah, fucking Snowden, bro.
Literally.
All right, we're gonna get into this. I highly recommend this book. It's called CIA Rogues and the Killing of the Kennedys. A lot of research is gonna come out of this. Lots of credits. If you'd like to read it, recommend.
Names, document, evidence. Like we said,
Right,
bro, this
right.
isn't just some shit we're touting out. This is facts, bro.
So they were performing the MK Ultra operation and using hypno-programming. Um,
Wait, yeah, re-say that.
so
bro.
they were using hypno-programming in their MK Ultra
like
operation.
like programming people through hypnosis.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
And the purpose of the programming was not to create an assassin, but to create a fall guy by planting highly incriminating information about an innocent person, while expert marksmen carried out the actual shooting. Hence Oswald.
Yeah.
Common symptoms of his hypno-programming.
Wasn't that one of the big things they say? They always say there was like 3 shooters. Like the bullet came from like
Exactly.
it wasn't actually in the direction
that's
of
one of the biggest
Oswald.
reasons the JFK conspiracy took off, like the immediate years after, is because in the Warren Commission, they had the lone the goal what's
The actual bullet.
No, what was the theory name? I forget, the golden bullet there. Or
Oh
the
yeah,
magic
it would have had to
bullet.
been perfect. Yeah.
Well, because
Or,
that's the thing. They found a pristine bullet in pristine condition, like almost no nicks on it.
Yeah.
And they said it traveled through 2 people and multiple bones and a wrist. And they were like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense."
It traveled through 2 people.
Yeah.
Like what? JFK and then his bodyguard and. Then...
No, it traveled through JFK. It was said traveled through here.
Okay.
Went out his neck. Went through the guy in front of him, his shoulder, and then out his shoulder, and
like
then
it
through
bounced
his
around
wrist.
off his bones.
Yeah.
So it's like if it got redirected
It got
by
redirected,
his bones.
and then it's a pristine bullet.
Right, like not a scratch
and just
on it.
found on the stretcher.
Right.
And even that guy that got hit, he was like, "No, that's bullshit."
They just found it on the stretcher. It just happened to be sitting
it was
there.
Just at a nurse.
If someone just got a bullet and just put,
They just put it there.
Yeah, what the fuck? Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
Some,
Even,
like, Watchmen shit,
even,
like-
even
Yeah,
that
shoot,
guy,
like, bruh.
even that guy that said that was Governor Connolly that got shot. He was the
Okay.
guy sitting in front of him, the governor of Texas at the time.
Okay.
He said there was another shot between me and Kennedy, because he watched back the video and he says Kennedy gets shot before I even turn around.
Right.
He gets shot and then I turn around to see what happens, and then I get shot. You can see his face turn before my face turns. He says it himself.
Damn, bro. Yeah, I heard of the golden bullet thing, but I didn't know it was like that.
Yeah, they say it literally traveled through 2 people, and literally everyone used to discredit it. They literally show bullets, the same bullet, going through just one bone, just a wrist,
Right.
would be a completely
It would
destroyed
flat
bone.
out. Yeah, exactly.
So the common symptoms of hypnoprogramming were mood swings and irritability, unaccounted time gaps, number of period of times.
Just seeing what they can do to program these people, like how far they can go into the human
And
psyche,
as we
bro.
said in the first episode, another sign of hypnoprogramming is diaries. I'll go back and read exactly what this says because I skipping around a little. This specifically talks about Lee Harvey Oswald, and we'll get into him. Oswald experienced many of these symptoms. There are a number of periods during which Oswald was missing for 2 or more weeks. One, for example, was in October 1962, a few months after having arrived with his family in Dallas. These periods would have allowed time for him to have undergone conditioning phases, obviously unwittingly. He would have no memory of these times. The time gaps and resulting memory lapses would also explain some of the intermittent marital troubles.
So he would just leave for 2 weeks and have no
Exactly.
recollection of what happened. Okay.
And hence the marital troubles he would have. Where are you? Why didn't you tell me? Another sign of hypnoprogramming is Oswald's diary, found with his belongings after the assassination. House committee experts stated that it was written in his handwriting, yet without his articulation, meaning that it was in his handwriting, but not in a way that he speaks or writes or nothing
Right.
like him.
Like a different personality.
A different person, but in his handwriting.
Okay, yeah.
They also maintained that it was written in 1 or 2 days, yet it covered 2 years of his life.
Damn.
So it was written in a weekend.
Right.
And it's a diary.
Well, because they can test that too. They can test like how old is this? How.
Well, they can just see all the the pen strokes are the same depth. It's all the same.
Right.
They got all their friends.
Like automatic writing, bro.
Exactly.
Like how they say with like the codec, like
hypnoprogramming.
Yeah, bro. What's like? Have you heard of the Codex Gigas or whatever? Like they call it the Devil's Bible.
Written in one night.
Yeah, and it was found in like Germany, and it's all these it's like this unknown language and all these depictions of animals and plants we have no idea, and they can prove. Yeah, it's like this fucking big, and it's just like they can prove that it was written in like you said, a single night.
Right.
And it's like which would be impossible, bro. And it says that like it was done with the help of, that's just I don't know. That's just a crazy connection, bro. On that automatic writing shit, like we know it's possible.
Another story is told by a friend of his on the day of the assassination. According to this friend, Lee brought a package containing curtain rods to work at the Texas School Book Depository. A package the Warren Commission would later surmise must have been the disassembled rifle being secreted into the building. Yet witnesses' description of the package's dimensions clearly rule out such a weapon. Oswald later said he had no memory of this package. Such is the nature of MKUltra hypnoprogramming. So, in that, and as we'll go on, he later goes on to say the package was just a ruse. There may have been nothing in the package at all.
Right.
They just needed the friend to see him carry the package because that was the only person that saw him carry that package into the building.
Just as another backup, be like.
Well, that's the only link from him carrying the gun into the building. No one else saw this curtain rod.
Okay.
So no one else saw him carry the gun into the building.
Right, just as one witness.
And
didn't even see the gun. He just saw a package. Didn't even see the gun.
He just saw the curtain rods.
Okay.
And he has no memory of carrying a gun or curtain rods.
Right. Are there any video interviews of Lee Harvey Oswald?
No. So, fun fact about that, we'll probably get into again later, but there was one interview done, one interrogation done after they arrested him by an FBI agent. No notes were taken. No recordings were taken. It was multiple hours long interrogation. No notes, no recording. And that was it.
Yeah, just a completely, hours long investigation.
No recording.
Nothing happened.
No notes. Nobody said anything about it. And then I believe he was shot either within days or within week. He was shot very quickly after it.
And shot by the CIA or
shot by Jack Ruby. It was either John Ruby or Jack Ruby. I think it was Jack Ruby, who was a mobster known to work with the CIA.
Oh, okay, all right.
So
another mafia hitman hired by the CIA.
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
As we already know, as we've shown you before.
He was a known mobster affiliate. He owned a strip club that Lee Harvey Oswald was known to frequent. Same with police officers in the area and CIA agents. And all the like. Yeah, everyone hung out at the strip club.
The Bada Bing,
because it was the perfect place to do these experiments to drug somebody and no one would see
Right.
it,
Well,
you
true.
know?
Yeah, it's like
They'd
everyone's
be
here to party anyways,
exactly.
bro.
We're drugging Lee Harvey Oswald over here. He has no memory of the strip club,
Yeah.
but he's in here. Multiple people have seen him.
Yeah, you guys seen him. You guys saw him. He was here. Nah, some real shit, bro.
So Oswald was born October 18th, 1934, 1939. That might be a 9. I'm gonna guess a 9 because in 1953 he was 14 and he was elected class president of 8th grade class. So the reason that's important is because a lot of stories since the assassination tried to paint him as like this loner, this antisocial kind of guy.
Right.
And the people that know him say he wasn't like that. They say he was kind of quiet, but
Yeah, they were
you
trying to
win
paint
class-
him as
right.
like the school shooter
Exactly.
archetype. Like,
you win class president. That's usually a
Yeah.
popularity contest.
Yeah.
He must have been a popular kid to win class president.
Right.
At least a good speaker, something. So 1955, he was 16. He joined the Civil Air Patrol. In the Civil Air Patrol, he met David Ferry, who was a pilot for the CIA. Ferry had connections to New Orleans mob boss Carlos Marcello, and had a hobby of a master hypnotist.
Which one? Who?
David Ferry.
Okay.
Had a hobby of being a master.
And this is the friend he met in the Civil Air Patrol.
Who met in the Civil Air Patrol, who was a pilot for the CIA, who was part of Operation Mongoose.
Oh wow, okay. And he just happened to have his hobby was just hypnosis, right?
Right. His hobby is hypnosis, part of Operation Mongoose, which was the Did we talk about Operation Mongoose?
No,
Maybe,
it's the first time we're talking
I'll
about
look
it
it
right
up,
now,
but
in this
Yeah.
one.
I'll dig into Ferry a little more. I'll bring that up before I move on.
Explain what that is first.
Yeah,
What Operation Mongoose is.
So,
Whoa.
most people know Operation Northwoods. If you don't, I recommend looking into it. It was a plan for the CIA to commit terrorist attacks on the U.S. under the disguise of being Cubans so that we would go to war with Cuba. JFK said, fuck no, you're not killing Americans, da-da-da. Instead, the CIA said, okay, how about we guys as anti-Cuban or anti-Castro Cubans and we commit terrorist attacks on Cuba?
Bro, it says...
And he said, sure.
Terrorist attacks against civilians.
The
shit.
CIA hired, trained, funded, everything you could think. They flew out Cubans to the Florida, to the swamps and everything. They trained these Cubans to go and be paramilitary operations, to be spies, to do all this stuff in
They're
Cuba.
committing terrorist attacks on Cuban civilians
exactly.
under the guise of being terrorists as to influence.
Exactly, to try to
Like
to get rid of Castro.
in September of 9/11, bro.
Yeah.
So David Ferry was involved in that.
September of 9/11.
He was a pilot.
Yeah.
He was a pilot for it. He flew them there. He trained them. He was planning the whole operation. So when that stopped, he was very fucking pissed. When that failed and when they stopped doing that operation, when the Bay of Pigs happened, everyone involved with that was pissed. And they all blamed Kennedy.
Yeah.
They all said, you fucked up the invasion. We wouldn't be having to do this shit. We wouldn't have to be going plan B if you didn't fuck up our plan.
Right.
So they all blamed Kennedy. In 1967, in the Garrison JFK conspiracy trial, they had a JFK conspiracy trial.
Okay.
Where
And they called it conspiracy.
Right.
They
were trying to charge people with conspiracy. And there's a whole movie on it. Recommend you watch it if you're interested. It's a very pretty good movie. Lots of good evidence. Lots of good points.
What's that called?
It's called JFK.
Okay.
Very easy to find.
Yeah.
It has what's his face in it? God, I'm blanking on his name.
Is it newer?
It was like 90s.
Okay.
Look it up. So in that trial, he was going to testify, and I believe either the few days or a week before he was supposed to testify, he was found dead.
Who was going to testify?
David Ferry.
Okay, yeah, okay, the guy
He was going to testify.
that was friends with Lee Harvey Oswald.
Exactly.
Okay.
He was dead. of a cerebral hemorrhage, which is a fucking brain
Aneurysm?
aneurysm. Yeah. So he was said to witnessed with Lee many times through his life. Lee had Ferry's library card when he was arrested.
Damn.
And
Obviously close friends.
Right, and
yeah.
after that, of course they went to Ferry and they were like, "Why does he have your library card?" And he was like, "I have no idea who he is. I've never met this guy. He must have stolen my library card."
Right.
And it's like, oh, yeah, why just
even
steal
though
a
we know you
library
guys
card?
met in this
in the Civil Air Patrol,
right?
So along with that, Jack Ruby had Ferry listed in his address book. So obviously a close friend.
Okay, and Jack Ruby's the one who murdered.
Jack Ruby murdered Lee Harvey Oswald.
Okay.
A few days after. We'll get into him. He was very interesting.
Yeah, I got a little love triangle going on here, bro.
There are so many people connected.
Yeah.
Like just in the city, of that area. Which is how this all happened. Everyone was interconnected. So in 1956, when Lee is 17, he joins the Marines. He is said to be intelligent, well-read, absolutely truthful by the Marines. He achieved minimum qualifications for marksmen, low marksmanship, meaning he barely got the needed level for marksman.
Yeah, he couldn't.
By no means a good marksman.
Yeah. He shot just enough to pass the class, but he's like scraping by.
Right, exactly. So
which just we're pointing out because if he's supposed to be the dude who shot him and he's terrible at shooting.
Also said to be this expert marksman who was able to reload a bolt action in 3 seconds.
Right.
So instead of being a marksman, he studied at the Defense Language Institute in Monterey. Studied Russian.
This was
he was in the Marines studying Russian. Very interesting. It's almost like they were training him. Almost like they had a plan to train him.
Right. Set it up from the very beginning.
If the Army's going to teach you Russian in the intelligence, he graduates from the Defense Language Institute, moves on to the NSA and cryptology interception. And
that's code work.
Right, that is
ciphers
pretty much spy work. So with that, in 1957, September, he arrived at Atsugi in Japan, an air base, the largest CIA base in Asia at the time, and the home of the new U-2 spy plane. So that's what he did. His operations in that time was he was officially a radar control operator, and that was used to maintain his secrecy of his language job and everything he was doing there.
Right.
He was also said to be doing photographic work for the U-2 spy plane, because he was used that later in his life. And that's also what he took to Russia was spy photos from the U-2. Yeah. And specifications for the camera.
So he actually did bring.
Oh, he brought plans and stuff. He brought actual stuff to try to convince them, and they were like,
Wait, so what he was telling them was the truth?
It may have been, it may not have.
Right.
But he brought stuff to give them.
Okay, yeah. And they just, yeah. Okay.
It may have been a plant, it may not have been.
Right.
Maybe it was good to get them to trust him. Maybe it wasn't to get them to turn him away.
You never fucking know, bruh. It's the problem where you never know.
So in 1958, in January, there was in Indonesia, there was a regional threat. September, Taiwan, flare-up crisis. These are all events that he participated in. Atsugi supported U-2 missions.
You're talking about like Bono, right? I'm just playing. That's just what that shit kept reminding me of, bro.
Oh.
Yeah, like Bono
so
did.
During this crisis, he gave Japanese women known to give KGB info disinformation about the U-2. So exactly what he may have been doing when he defected.
Right.
So he would go to these like spy brothels where everyone just hangs out, and these people get drunk and they tell the women stuff.
Yeah, well, I've heard of that. Yeah,
And
yeah.
he'd
It's
go,
like,
he'd just go do that. He'd go and be like, "Oh, hey, baby, I love you. You ever hear about the U-2? It can do this and this." And then she'd go and
Yeah.
tell the Russians
So
that it can do
what
this
is
and
the
this.
U-2?
The
Explain
U-2 is a spy plane. It was
that. Okay.
in the 60s.
Like
it
the
was the
B-2
most
bomber?
exactly.
Okay,
It was the
okay.
most advanced spy plane at the time. Very fast, very low, very good at spying, good cameras, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So through his operations with said brothel women, he contracted gonorrhea.
I like gonorrhea better.
Gonorrhea, yeah.
Yeah.
Gonorrhea. And
If you don't know, that's when you have like green slime coming out of your
Right.
dick that
Typically-
burns like acid.
typically you are
I
punished.
wouldn't
I
know.
wouldn't know.
I would. Hey, I wouldn't know, but I'm just saying.
Typically, you are punished for that in the military because it's very obvious what you're doing. You're sleeping with women, and you're in
Right.
the military. You're not supposed to be doing
Yeah,
that.
the only way you got this is if you're fucking
Instead,
hookers.
He was not punished because it was said to be contracted in the line of duty.
Okay, right.
So on mission,
Whoa, yeah, because he's like, well, it was part of my
right,
intelligence
I
operation.
had to sleep with her because I was
Right.
telling her this.
Yeah, dude. Yo.
I had to sleep with her. What do you mean? You said
Dude.
you didn't tell me to sleep. I could have sworn you said sleep with her.
It's like some James Bond shit.
Right.
See, that's fucking awesome, dude.
Exactly, some James Bond shit. Exactly.
Part
so
of my
he
mission.
so he was a spy. That's exactly what he was a spy. So in 1958 November, he went to El Toro Air Station. His roommate said Oswald was not a communist or a Marxist. Oswald was on assignment in Russia for American intelligence.
Okay.
So his roommate,
Another confirmation that
he
it wasn't.
later said this,
Okay.
but he was his roommate at El Toro Air Station in 1958, and he said that he was not a communist or a Marxist, but he was on assignment, and he told him this before he went on assignment.
Okay.
Which is kind of a theme we'll see, because I believe he also told his wife, I think he told his wife he was on assignment, and a few other people that he was. I think he told his mother.
Yeah.
'Cause, your mother can never keep.
Yeah,
secrets, and
yeah.
You say mother, you can't tell anybody.
Yeah,
this,
even if you're the
but it's
director.
a spy operation,
Right.
And she's like, "Oh yeah, he said he was going into Russia to be a spy."
Yeah.
And it's like, God damn it, mother.
Old Granny Bone Smoke, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
For real.
And that's exactly what happened. She was like, "Yeah, he said she was a spy." And they were like, God, "Shut the fuck up."
Right.
Yeah. So in 1959, he's still in the army at this point, the Marines. He had a family hardship discharge, which is kind of an honorable discharge, so to say.
Like what? Like someone died in the family?
Yeah,
or-
exactly, just some sort of family hardship.
Yeah. Okay.
So he left 3 months early. He had no hardship in the family, no record of hardship.
Mm.
And at this time, he went undercover as a defector to spy on Russia.
Right. And like we said, all those people he had told that that's what he was going there to do,
Yeah,
was
he
to
told
be
multiple
intelligence.
people that he was doing intelligence.
Okay.
Which is kind of what you're not supposed to do when you do intelligence. But tells you how talkative he was.
Yeah.
So at this time, he enrolled in college in Europe at the Albert Schweitzer College in Switzerland, a CIA substantial investment.
What do you
So-
mean?
Well, they heavily invested in this
Oh,
college,
okay, right.
probably to fund money to these different agents that were
Okay.
probably had multiple agents at this college as a
Yeah.
cover.
Just another offshore
Well,
bank
a lot
account
of
type
colleges
thing, bro.
are into
Exactly.
shady shit. Look
Exactly.
at Skull and Bones, bro.
Well,
Yeah, the
that's
secret societies,
that's
bro.
also how they funded a lot of their operations.
Right.
Is a lot of the research and the experiments they did in MK Ultra was funded through these laboratories, because they would just take funding and say, "Oh, yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah.
We'll take the funding."
Yeah. We're just scientists. We're down to do whatever you
and
pay us to,
they're
bro.
down to the research and shit too. 'Cause
Right.
They're learning.
Yeah.
Right.
College.
State of art of
So he got his discharge and his passport paperwork cleared extremely quickly. 9 days after discharge, Lee left for France. So he didn't have his passport, didn't have his discharge paperwork, but 9 days after he was discharged, he got his paperwork, his passport, and he was
Right.
gone.
Which would be impossible.
Well, very hard in the fucking 1959.
Okay, right.
You know, got to go down to the government office, got to talk to the guy, got to get the notary for your signature.
Yeah, once just to get a passport in 9 days.
Exactly. Got to get your photo taken, got to get that process,
Yeah.
got to get your passport
Well, it's weird he had to
printed.
get that, because you would think if he was in the military he was in Japan.
Well, exactly.
Why wouldn't he already
he's
have a
left-
passport?
He left the military.
Okay, yeah.
Right? So That is a good point, though. That's
Well,
Yeah,
you
interesting.
don't
like-
need a passport to go
Well,
on
exactly,
base
exactly.
for military.
Okay,
So he
yeah.
left for France. He flew from France to England God, so many F's in here, to fly to Finland. There were no commercial flights to Finland at this time,
Okay.
so it's very interesting that he somehow flew to Finland.
Yeah.
No
Unless
no trace of flights though.
right, it's either
Did he take like multiple planes or just straight to Finland?
Straight to
so
Finland.
either he
Yeah.
got a rich private ride, highly doubtful, or he hopped on because that's what
Some
military
spy
people.
plane,
Yeah, he
yeah.
can hop on to a military plane and it's non-commercial. It wouldn't be documented.
And he arrived in Moscow by train on October 16th, 1959. So we're gonna skip around here a little. Helms later claimed that in the Warren Commission they had no contact with Oswald, as they continue to date to say they have no contact with Oswald. Although the latest records reveal they had lots of records and they were tracking him for a long time, which would seem to indicate
Right.
contact. So in 1963, a memo from the CIA came out stating they had interviews with Lee Harvey Oswald from 1960, 2 years before.
Three years before the assassination.
They
Okay.
had interviews. That's all the memo said, though. Just that they had interviews. Nothing on the interview, nothing about it.
Right.
Just
Just that it
interview.
occurred.
Yep. Lee Harvey Oswald interview.
Okay.
The 201 file, CIA personnel file for individuals who are CIA or contracted. Lee Harvey Oswald had one.
Okay.
Had a 201 file. So we'll go back October.
Yeah, so confirmed CIA connection right there.
Connection. October 31st, 1959. He entered the U.S. Embassy and declared himself a Marxist, and renounced his U.S. citizenship.
This is when he came back from Russia, or when
No,
he
this
went
is
to
him.
Russia?
This is him in Russia in the U.S.
Okay.
Embassy.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
So he just arrived a few days ago on October 16th in Moscow. October 31st, he's entering the U.S. Embassy, declaring himself a Marxist, renounces his U.S. citizenship. He knows the U.S. Embassy to be bugged. They know it's bugged by the Russians. So he went into a monologue, and said he would give Soviet secrets about the U-2 spy plane. In the U.S. Embassy, he publicly declared he was going to the Russians and give them secrets.
Right.
He was not stopped by the CIA, not approached by anyone, and he was likely provided disinformation to give to them.
Right.
And
But yeah, he just goes and announces this
he just
inside
goes and
the
announces
embassy,
it.
and no
the
one
people,
does anything.
Exactly. The people in the embassy, the workers there, they say it sounded tutored and rehearsed.
Yeah.
Which, maybe he was practicing it in front of a mirror. Maybe someone told him what to say. Who
Right.
knows?
Both possibilities, though. It's just the fact you have to entertain. We don't know
Right.
for
You
sure.
always have to keep an open mind.
Yeah, but it's like just entertain that both are possible because we don't know.
The UPI, the United Press International Bureau, the agency created media spin to Lee's anti-American cover. They interviewed Lee and they parroted Soviet philosophy, where he parroted Soviet philosophy and lectured as if programmed. He was just constantly spouting communism when they weren't really asking him or talking about it. He was just constantly,
Right.
So
he's just spewing fucking
right. And this is just a random.
Like just what he does. He's like Hitler,
right.
dude. Like
exactly. So
Stalin.
in 1959,
yeah, for real.
2
Especially
weeks.
because Hitler's always I'm gonna killing the Jews.
So 2 weeks after he's been there, the Soviets told Oswald to leave. They suspected he was a spy.
Right.
So he wrote letters constantly about communism back to the United States people he knew.
Yeah.
He just write letters about communism.
Well, it's just such a weird transition to be like, he's this normal guy, all this stuff. He works for the military, intelligence, blah blah. And as soon as he hits Russia, all of a sudden he's the ultimate child of Marxism.
Right.
Like,
So he's writing these letters, and he's doing this because, of course, the CIA knows that they
Well,
intercept letters.
another thing, like you were saying before with the automatic writing, it's still him, it's his body, but it's as if it's a different personality. So it's like, however they MK programmed him.
Exactly, the undercover communist.
Yeah, his second personality is a super communist, bro.
So he wrote letters about communism. They knew they'd be intercepted, and many letters were said to be uncharacteristic of him, like you were saying, the automatic writing. In November to December of 1959, he had a time gap where he was untraceable. Much of his life is traceable, as we
How long was this time gap?
November to December.
Oh, okay,
So probably, either the month of November or somewhere in between. Yeah.
While he's in Russia.
Right.
Okay.
So in 1960, the Soviets issue Oswald a residence permit in Minsk. And they assign him a job in a factory. He stays there for a little while.
After they had wanted to kick him out?
Right. They'd wanted to kick him out. They said, we're not going to trust your shit. We think you're a spy.
Right.
But if you want to stay here and be a worker in a factory, you can go fuck off and work in a factory.
Okay, yeah. Right.
So then he goes, tries...
We still need slaves.
Right. So,
yeah.
so he
we
goes...
still need slaves, bro.
So he goes for a little bit. He tries to maintain his cover. He's like, oh, yes, of course, I'm a communist. So I want to go do this.
Right.
And
yeah, because of course I'm a true communist. Of course, I want to work in the factory.
And then he goes. He does it for a while. He realizes they're not gonna ever believe him.
Right.
So he goes back to the U.S.
Yeah. I'm just wasting my time working here, bro.
So, his diary, which they found later after the assassination, covers Lee's life in Minsk, 1960 to March of 1961. Confirmed to be in Lee's writing, but not in his articulation, as we said. Written entirely in 1 or 2 sittings, written at least 1 year after the events. And that's known to be because of some of the discrepancies in the dates of some of the stuff that was in there. That it had to be, definitely not during the time. It had to be after because it was covered the entire thing,
right.
Of course. And MKUltra was known to use diaries. They drugged and hypnotized patients where they wrote what they heard that was either taped or spoken. So either just a speaker that was playing a recording and they just write down what was being recorded for them, or somebody's just sitting in the room telling them what to write. And they would have no memory of writing this. And in his diary, numerous facts in the diary were contradicted by witness statements that were later given.
Okay.
So, on his return to the United States, it's a very interesting process. This guy has just defected to the Soviet Union. He's renounced his citizenship to the United States. He said he's going to give secrets to the Soviet Union.
Right.
Which is effectively treason.
Yeah. I mean, he's full on.
He's being a spy. He's being a defector. Fucking Yuri Nosenko, who was a defector from Russia
to us,
came here and got tortured.
Yeah.
So you can only imagine what they do to an American guy. Instead, he went to the U.S. Embassy and was quickly processed paperwork for a passport and visa.
Wow.
Very quickly done. No problem. You want a passport? You want to come back?
Right
away. In fact, they expedited Marina's visa, his wife. He met a wife.
Yeah.
Met a girl in...
Not only can you come back, we want you to.
Right.
Yeah.
We want you to, in like a week's time, with your wife, who is the daughter of a KGB agent.
Oh, okay.
KGB official.
Did he meet her in Russia?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
He met her in Russia.
All right. Yeah.
And is bringing her back. He faced no prosecution for defecting during the height of the Cold War.
Right.
This is the peak of the Cold War. He defects to Russia.
Right.
He says he's gonna give them all the secrets, and then he just comes right back.
We know he actually does have secrets.
Exactly.
So it's
and he just comes right back. No problem.
Yeah,
dude. With your Russian KGB wife.
Right. They're like, oh yeah, dude, like, we'll just
and
forget
like I
about all
said,
that.
Lee's mother spoke about undercover intelligence assignment in Russia. And we're gonna move on to another interesting character, George Morenshilt.
Okay.
You can look that up.
Yeah, George Morenshilt. We'll go
He was a CIA domestic contact. A Russian immigrant and a CIA asset. Deep friendship with Lee. In 1950s, he was in Yugoslavia, a petroleum engineer. A CIA American Cooperation admin.
Okay, yeah. He's a petroleum geologist, professor, and a known CIA informant. Like he said, he is best known for being one of the best friends of Lee Harvey Oswald. And also, he testified before the Warren Commission about the assassination.
He introduced Lee to the Russian-speaking community in America, in like New Orleans, Dallas, all over the place. Wherever Lee went, he was like, "Oh, I know these Russians."
Right.
Very
Getting him in
interesting.
with the community.
Very
Yeah.
interesting, because Lee's not Russian, but he speaks Russian.
Right. And this is before he had defected?
No, this is after.
Okay.
After
Yeah.
he's coming back. So lots of these people that we see, and we'll point them out, but a lot of these people, are thought to be handlers, right? The CIA handlers for their hypnosis or their MK Ultra patients.
Right.
So these people went in their lives and very probably unknowing to the people, were controlling parts of their lives to shape them in a direction to do
Right.
something. So
Truman Show shit, bro.
exactly.
Truman
In Lee
Show
Harvey
shit.
Oswald's case, there were many people: David Ferry, Mohrenschildt, Guy Bannister, Ruby or Ruth Payne. Many of these people are connected to the CIA and shaped massive parts
Yeah.
of Lee's
Well, and that's
life.
a known tactic, using a friend,
Exactly.
supposedly. Like, if either you
Exactly.
turn him into a mole, or you just have a person who's already an informant,
Exactly.
and then they just happen to network their way to become friends with them the whole time, feeding back information, bro.
Was the one that suggested Lee move to Dallas and got Lee a new job.
And Dallas is where the shooting occurred.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So
Setting
he
up the
suggested
place,
exactly.
right.
So he said that all these people literally, they're like, "Oh, you should go here. You should get this job here." Ruth Payne, who wasn't even really his friend, he was more of his wife's friend, got him the Texas School Book Depository job, and the rifle. I don't think the rifle was found in her. Lots of the evidence was found in
Right.
her house, which is very strange.
Right. All I
Yeah.
have to say is, as fucked up and dark as all this shit is, you have to appreciate these guys' intelligence.
Oh,
bro.
they go through the work.
These guys are genius,
Terrible,
dude.
yeah.
Like, the fact that, like, and
They
think about
get it set up through so many different puzzles that when you say it and you go through, you're like, "Oh, this guy's connected, and this guy's connected." You sound crazy, and they do that
Yeah.
on purpose.
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
they said, if you just did this guy and this guy, you'd be like, "Oh, well, these two guys did this." But there's so many people involved, you automatically say, "Oh, well, how many? So how could this many people not, reveal the
Right.
truth?" Which is what I hear constantly. It's, "Oh, how could so many people in a conspiracy not come forward?" And it's like, well, about 100 people died. The other people either wanted to live or died some other way,
Right.
through cancer or something, or just got old.
Like they say,
Yeah,
bro, on a
you know?
need-to-know basis
Need to know
only.
basis, especially. Yeah, so
It's like, I don't need all these. They don't need to all know the plan, as long as I
Right.
have you perform your function, you perform your function.
right.
It all,
More in short, Schilt arranged parties to introduce Lee and Marina to people around the communities.
She's already
He
daughter of the
introduced
KGB.
Right. He introduced them. Speaking of that, introduced them to many intelligence and military connections. People working at Bell Helicopter, ATD, Radio Free Europe, Convair. People in the military, connections.
Yeah.
Essentially, introducing them all. At this time, Lee went missing for 1 month.
Again.
Again. Just randomly missing. No, and you can trace him through a lot of his life. You can
Right.
say he was here with his wife. His wife knew where he was. But then at this time, he doesn't have a job. He's nowhere. He's not living anywhere.
Yeah.
His wife's somewhere. We know where his wife is, but why don't we know where
Right.
he is?
Literally just disappears.
No record of where he is. So Mohrenschildt gets him this job at Jaggars Charles Stovall, an aerial photo maps and graphic company.
Okay.
Also, a CIA cover used for the U-2 planes and developing their spy
Okay.
photos.
Right. Yeah. That's
So
okay.
he goes and uses his previous U-2 plane
Experience. Right.
and is developing photos Also happening during this time, the Cuban Missile Crisis, which is, funnily enough, the exact period where Lee went missing.
Okay, right, yeah.
So he was doing this work on the Cuban Missile Crisis.
About the spy plane shit.
These spy planes are going, trying to get all the details on the missiles, what kind of
Right,
missiles.
yeah,
the
flying
Russians
over,
are...
getting pictures of the
and
silos.
if you don't know,
shit,
the Cuban Missile Crisis was when the Russians were transporting nuclear missiles into Cuba, which is very close to the United States.
Yeah.
And that was a big no-no.
Yeah, big just homeland security risk.
Exactly.
If we have these nukes right off the coast, they're gonna be able to shit on us.
Huge crisis, big standoff. They eventually took him back, and they got averted. But during this time, Lee was missing, doing this work, presumably.
Right.
And
bro, this shit is so deep, bro.
So he worked on these aerial photos of the Soviet missile sites, and he was probably not allowed to disclose his location during the crisis because it's a security crisis,
right.
And he's an agent. He can't tell his wife where he is, can't tell anybody where he is. It ended on October 28th, 1962. The next time Lee is recorded, his next recorded movement, November 4th, he moves into a new apartment.
Okay. Of 1962 or 1960? Of
1962.
Okay.
So that's like 4 days later.
Yeah.
Like 8 days later. He also met Dennis Offstein, also in the intelligence community, a Russian language specialist in the Army Security Agency and the NSA. He became friends and spoke Russian with Lee, and he often spoke of Soviet equipment and facilities. He said that this was a kind of a hobby for Lee, that he didn't exactly say this, but for lack of a better explanation,
paraphrasing,
he was basically saying that Lee was almost like he was trained to examine these kind of structures and equipment and this kind of stuff so that he could report it back.
Right.
So it was kind of a hobby of his to talk about these equipments and be like, oh, this has this specification, this is this and this.
Right. Well, just why do you know? Why is this your hobby?
Right,
why do you know all about
these Soviet
Russian
facilities? Yeah. And he wasn't in Russia that long,
Right.
And I don't know what that stands for. It's been too long.
Let's see.
That, but who knows?
Oh, yeah.
But Lee. Oh, okay. So part of his work for the whatever the fuck it was, Joval, the photo company. Part of his work for the photo company, the area photos, he spoke Russian, so he was translating Russian in the photos. They would have the aerial photos of the missile bases, and they'd say, "What does this sign say?" And he'd be translating and writing.
Oh,
on the
right,
photos,
because it's Russian.
It's all in Russian.
Oh, okay,
exactly.
yeah, right, okay, yeah.
So in summer of 1963, he moves to New Orleans. Summer 1963, New Orleans. He is monitoring anti and pro Castro groups.
Right. Just monitoring all the political movements around Castro.
Infiltrating them, going in, meeting them, the Russian-speaking ones, the Cubans, the regular people, the pro-communist, the anti-communist. They're spying on everyone.
Yeah. Just all these little political factions.
Partly for people to recruit, partly for people to spy on, partly for everything.
Well, yeah, just however they can use it to further whatever they're trying to accomplish.
And they're searching for foreign spies as well as part of this. So they're going to groups and they're trying to see, okay, who is a Russian spy, who's whatever. And so Lee's cover as a leftist, he's building a cover as this leftist defector, all this kind of stuff. Meanwhile, he has a close relationship with lots of conservative and military types and skilled.
Right.
Even after being a defector, he's very close friends with lots of the military.
Which they should be enemies.
They should be like, the fuck you defected? Get the fuck out of here. You're a communist? Get the fuck out of here.
Like we said, the fact they even let him back.
Right.
Not even that, expedited his movement back to America, bro.
So, right, and a communist at the height of the Cold War. These people should hate him.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. He should be. He's like public enemy number one right now.
So his cover as a leftist was created as a plausible motive for future framing. Okay. Right. So they're essentially setting him up in a long con.
Setting up the chess.
He's either going to be a double agent if they accept him. If the Soviets said, "Oh yeah, we'll take your information, you'll be a spy," you might have stayed in Russia.
Well, yeah, because
But
setting
that
it up for both of them, both,
exactly.
yeah.
That didn't work out, so he came back and he was like, "All right, you're going into this.
Right.
You're being our patsy." Um, so Marina, originally in the Warren Commission, his wife testified Lee was a good family man. She later changed the story and said he was abusive. Um, and this was after hours and hours of interrogation by the FBI.
Okay.
And she
Interrogation.
later came back and was like, "Oh, he was abusive. He was terrible,
Right.
evil man."
All of a sudden,
Yeah.
after all the interrogation, she comes back with a totally different story.
Yeah.
Haven't seen that before. Look out of here, these guys, bro.
We're probably gonna have to end this early. Do a part 3.
No, yeah, all right,
We got
guys.
a lot to go.
I was gonna say we still got a lot more information to go, but
we can still go a few more minutes, but
I bet. But yeah, we'll wrap it up and then.
yeah. So like I have been mentioning, Lee underwent automatic writing, and used an MK Ultra. They drugged and hypnotized them. They transcribed the tape with no memory. This was also used. The tapes were also used to give post-hypnotic suggestions, commands given to subjects without recalling the source of the command. So they'd be wherever, like the nightclubs, like we mentioned. They'd be in there. They'd be